ドジャースと4年総額2億4000万ドルで契約合意したカイル・タッカー選手がドジャースタジアムで入団会見を行いました。
Kyle, welcome to Los Angeles. Just when you think about making this decision, what made the city, this team so appealing? And can you just talk about how this all really came together for you?
I mean, it was interesting. I mean, obviously, I think very highly of this organization. I mean, from the top down, from ownership group to the front office. I think it's first class experience with all of that. I mean, playing here is exciting. You can see the fan base really embrace the team, embrace the city, and want to encourage the players to go out there and play at a high level. And I think the players kind of speak for themselves with the play out that they do out on the field, winning multiple World Series championships, especially the last 2 years. The players kind of speak for themselves in terms of that, and I don't know many players like super personally, but just more so playing against them and seeing them and talking to them on the field. But I mean, this is a great group of guys, and I'm excited to join them and have another run at a World Series.
このように新たな挑戦の場への思いを熱く語ったタッカー選手ですが、彼の移籍はアメリカでも早速大きな話題となっています。現地メディアの中でも特に注目度の高いスポーツ番組 CBS スポーツではMLB 史に名を刻む OB たちがタッカー選手の加入について専門的な視点から分析しました。番組には MLB 史上わずか24人しかいない完全試合を達成した名投手ダラス・ブレイデン氏、そして MLB 球団の GM としてチーム編成の最前線を担い、その後はジャーナリスト兼アナリストとして数多くの移籍や戦力評価に携わってきたジム・ボーデン氏が出演。現役時代の経験やフロントとしての知見を踏まえながら、タッカー選手が新チームにもたらすインパクトや今後の起用法、役割、さらには球団全体の戦力バランスにまで話題は及びました。その内容を日本語字幕付きでご紹介しますので、ぜひ最後までご覧ください。
And for more, welcome in A's broadcaster, my friend Dallas Braden, one of only 24 pitchers in MLB history to throw a perfect game. Dallas, here we are again, my friend. It's the Dodgers swooping in and getting another big-name free agent. They already took away Edwin Diaz from the Mets. Now they take Kyle Tucker away from the Mets as he signs a massive deal. Your reaction is what?
Has there ever been a product that sells itself any better than Hollywood? And mainly the Dodgers at this point? Because I'm not quite sure how much courting was necessary outside of, you want to come to Hollywood? You want to come hit in this lineup? You want to come hit behind this staff? The answer to those questions clearly were a resounding yes. Hakeem, we'll start here. It was years ago on our podcast when I was essentially laughed at for talking about us as an industry being on the precipice, being right on the brink of a $50 million a year type player. And who that player was, what that looked like, I said remained to be seen. There were rumors about that. Could that be Mike Trout? I mean, there were guys like DeGrom that signed big extensions for $30+ million a year. Mike Trout, who signed extensions for $30+ million a year. Miguel Cabrera back in 2014. I mean, there were names, right, that were popping up. Garrett Cole, $36 million in 2019. So you knew that we were creeping to this point. But now here we are, Kyle Tucker, and rumor has it that there was a lengthy deal on the table from the folks up north in Toronto. A lengthy deal, somewhere around the neighborhood of possibly 10 years. If that's the case, could you imagine being able to come even close to what that AAV may have been in a 10-year stretch with just a 4-year offer? And that's exactly what the Los Angeles Dodgers just did. At $16 million a year, 240 total, there is an opt-out after year 2. Kyle Tucker is now a Los Angeles Dodger. And I think the marriage between the two was really something that was just sort of discussed and volleyed about, almost as an afterthought, just sort of tickling and teasing the baseball fans' mind, because what if, right? What if? Like, could that be a possibility? Here we are, Hakeem. Kyle Tucker is sandwiched now in the middle of best lineup in baseball. And what's funny is this is a team who has won the World Series in back-to-back years. They are defending champs 2 times, and they have gotten better. That's really tough to do. That is a difficult task to complete, regardless of where you finished at in the season prior. especially if you find yourself in the big dance at the end of it all. To think that you are going to say goodbye, as they did, to a Hall of Famer in Clayton Kershaw. There's players that have left, but they have just gotten better. And now you add, arguably, and I think undoubtedly at this point, the most coveted free agent bat on the market. I mean, it was Kyle Schwarber, it was Kyle Tucker, it was Alex Bregman. Schwarber found a home very early. I don't think anybody doubted he wasn't headed back to the city of brotherly love. Alex Bregman and the debacle that occurred between he and Boston, not he and Boston, but essentially Boston fumbling the Bregman bag. And now Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker is a Los Angeles Dodger. Wouldn't you like to hit in between Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman or Will Smith or Shohei Ohtani or Max Muncy or Teoscar Hernandez? I mean, the list goes on and on and on, Hakeem. This is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, he could have hit between Francisco Lindor and Juan Soto, but now he's going to hit between a couple of guys in L.A. And what's wild, to your point about the AAV, they're going to pay a guy $60 million AAV, and he's not even the best player on his team. Like, if you
he might not be the third best.
Right.
He might not be the third or fourth best player on that team. I mean, let's just be honest. That's not a knock on Kyle Tucker. Let's not forget that they have 3 offensive caliber MVPs in that lineup still, before you ever get to Kyle Tucker's name, right? And that's something else that we talked about was, is this, and I don't want to use the word indictment, I think maybe is this insight into the personality of Kyle Tucker? Because if you have a lengthy deal on the table, basically a decade's worth of commitment to you, and there's a competitive AAV that's being offered as well, large lump sum, does it benefit you to go that route? Maybe it does. The only resistance that you might have is if that deal gets cut in half lengthwise and there's not such a gap in the compensation that you have to scoff at. We're talking $240 million over 4 seasons.
Look, Kyle Tucker has been really consistent, right? 5 straight seasons with 20 home runs. But, like, let's be honest, Dallas, you can go get a guy that hits 20 home runs. Like, you want guys that are driving in 130 homers, right? The numbers are good. I'm not going to debate whether they're good or not. But some will say, well, you know, he got injured last season. That suppressed his numbers. Are we sure he can stay healthy? Like, those are the concerns about Kyle Tucker. So
we also got to think about this. When you talk about overall value, you're talking about a player who is essentially a 5-win player and has been a 5-win player since 2021. And when you plug that kind of individual into a lineup where he is not bearing the responsibility of production, where there is a list of valuable and at times the most valuable players in the league that can support him, as well as other incredible supporting cast members, I think the pressure to have to go out and perform gets alleviated, maybe to an extent where he can quietly be that 4.5, 5.5 win player. And when you look up after another 4 years, if that's what you're getting out of Kyle Tucker and maybe hopefully a little more, are the Dodgers okay with it? I think the paycheck and the years tell you that they would be more than okay if that happens.
Well, and you know that if he does get injured, they can absorb the loss for a month or two, right? Because they're so deep. If you're the Mets right now, Dallas, you lost Edwin Diaz, a couple $1 million. Dodgers paying a little bit more. Dodgers paid Kyle Tucker a little bit more. How are you feeling right now if you're a Mets fan? And then for the Mets overall, when you got Steve Cohen out here tweeting that there's smoke, and you're thinking that, hey, you're going to get Kyle Tucker, and you think you got a deal that's going to happen soon, $50 million a year, and it doesn't happen. Where do the Mets go from here?
Well, first to address Mets fans or what that must feel like. You know, there's been a lot of conversation about what that clubhouse atmosphere is like, and whether or not that was something that Edwin Diaz parted ways with or a reason behind it. I think, honestly, it was just about the money and the lack of huge gap and the opportunity to go and play with a team that has a very clear and very defined championship window. And I think that cannot be said for what the New York Mets have going on right now. So from that perspective, I think if you're a Mets fan, you do start to wonder, what direction are we heading? And if we are talking about going out and getting these players and we just continue to miss and we're having a struggle retaining our players, there must be something deeper here at play. Because to have Uncle Stevie, as I affectionately refer to him as, Steve Cohen, tweeting, as you said, Hakeem, kind of tickling it, hey, there's smoke. And who could that smoke be around? I mean, would it have to be almost a Red Soxian pivot now to bringing in Framber Valdez? Is that the only way that you can make up for having watched Edwin Diaz leave town? And now you have also allowed Pete Alonso to walk, and you have also now just watched Kyle Tucker, a guy who would undoubtedly help that club. I made the argument that though Kyle Tucker could help that club, is that club a Kyle Tucker away from being a championship caliber team, a championship contender? I don't know that that's necessarily the case. Clearly, Kyle Tucker makes anybody better. He makes the Dodgers even better than they are. He would have made a huge impact in Toronto as well. But for the Mets fans to have this carrot sort of dangled in front of them and have it ripped away in the fashion that it has been, and I'm not saying that the Mets were the lead horse in this race for Kyle Tucker, but to think that you were in the conversation, that you were in that short list of suitors, and now you once again have been left kind of out in the cold, that's got to be a jagged pill to swallow.
Look, you want to compete, you got to spend money. We know that. I mean, that's how this is. There's no salary cap in Major League Baseball. We're not sure that there's going to be one day, even though that might be a sticking point with a strike looming. We'll wait to see on that, as my good friend David Sampson would say. But hey, as my good friend Dallas Braden would say, you hang it, we bang it. And that's what Kyle Tucker's probably going to do in Los Angeles multiple times next season. 4 years, $240 million. Hey, I'm going to continue to look for you on Baseball is Dead, one of the great podcasts on the market. Dallas, appreciate you taking time for us here on HQ, my friend.
Anything for you, Dream. Much appreciated as always. Enjoy the night, my man.
Get some instant analysis. Welcome in former MLB Executive of the Year and CBS Sports Baseball insider Jim Bowden. The Dodgers. Again, here we are again talking about the Dodgers swinging a big deal. Your reaction is what to landing Kyle Tucker?
Yeah, so as we watched the Dodgers won their second consecutive World Series and we looked at their team and we said in the offseason, what are the two biggest weaknesses that the Dodgers had last year, right? Number one, they didn't have an impact closer. Well, they went out and they got Edwin Diaz in free agency this offseason. He was just the best closer in the National League last year. The other big need they had was improving the defense in right field. Teoscar Hernandez, well below average defensively. And we saw that in the playoffs and the World Series. So what did they do? They went out and got Kyle Tucker, the number one free agent in this entire class. This is a player at 29 years old in his prime. 30 homers, 30 steals is what he's averages. That's what he is. Plus defender in right field, plus base runner, plus arm. So the Dodgers basically look at their team that won 2 straight world championships, Hakeem, and they said, look, we had 2 little weaknesses, right? And we just fixed it with the best free agent right fielder and the best closer that was available in this marketplace. And at the same time, how did they do it? They just outspent the Mets. They outspent the Blue Jays and all the competition. The Mets had offered $50 million a year times 4 years. The Dodgers came in and said, yeah, okay, we'll offer 60 times 4. Sit down, shut up. We have Tucker, you don't.
Look, I mean, Steve Cohen just tweeted that there was smoke. Clearly there was smoke in Los Angeles, not in New York. What more can you tell us about how this deal came together? Because we didn't hear the Dodgers. It's like they're just lurking, right? All of a sudden, we hear about the Dodgers at the last second. We had heard that it was a 2-team race. There was Toronto and the New York Mets.
Yeah, that's how the Dodgers operate, right? They're always stealth. That's how they like to operate. Andrew Friedman, the president of the Dodgers, has a long history of that. And look, the Blue Jays, according to our sources, they had the longest term offer on the table for Kyle Tucker. And the Mets, they made their offers public. They leaked out the numbers. Why they did that, I'm not quite sure. But I want you to keep in mind, the New York Yankees made the opinion they don't think Tucker could succeed in New York. They thought he would succeed in LA or Toronto, but they weren't sure that this was a good fit for New York. I guess the Mets felt differently, and it would have been fascinating if he signed with New York, how that would have played out. But even his former teammates in Houston kept telling me, I can't see him signing with the Mets. I think he's going to probably sign with Toronto. But what happened here is the Dodgers do what they do. They paid a luxury tax this offseason, which is more money than 16 teams' entire player payroll. And they sat there and they said, look, we're making so much money. Let's just go overspend. Let's make an offer so good for Kyle Tucker he can't say no. And that's what they did. Nobody's close to $60 million a year. That's $10 million or more than the Mets offered. So the Dodgers just yawned it out. They waited the whole offseason, and they said our two biggest needs, a closer and an impact right fielder. They got both, and now they are set up. Clearly the favorites in Vegas, Hakeem, to win their third World Series in a row. And I'll be honest with you, when we get done this hit, I am going to go online. I am going to book my hotel for the World Series next year in Los Angeles.
Okay. All right, that's fine. You can get ahead of that. I mean, they have the shortest odds to win the World Series for a third year in a row. Look, when you look at the Dodgers lineup, where does Tucker fit and where are you slotting him in?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the good thing about Tucker and the important thing about Tucker is that he's 29 years old, because this is an aging roster, right? Freddie Freeman is now 35. Mookie Betts is now 32. So I think we're going to put Kyle Tucker either in the 2 spot or the 3 spot. I think at Freddie Freeman's age, it's okay if we drop him down a spot or 2. So maybe we end up going Ohtani, Betts, Tucker, Freeman, something like that. Maybe even put Will Smith in between Freeman and Tucker. But it's somewhere in there. I mean, look, you know what you're getting with Kyle Tucker. Plus defense in right field, 30 homers, 30 steals. And by the way, the other thing that's great about this spot for Tucker is he doesn't have to be the headliner. He's not going to be on the cover of the media guide or the yearbook. He's not going to be on the front of the iPad, or he's not going to be on the billboard. That's not what he is. That's for Ohtani. That's for Freeman and Betts and Yamamoto. Kyle Tucker can just be a support player at $60 million a year.
It must be nice to pay somebody $60 million a year and have the roster that you have. They're the Monstars, except these Monstars don't lose in this real-life movie in the reality that we live in.
最後までご覧いただきありがとうございました。今回の動画についてどういう感想を持たれましたか？ぜひコメント欄で意見や感想をお聞かせください。チャンネル登録やグッドボタンを押していただけると励みになります。それでは次回の動画でお会いしましょう。